You're listening to AchtungMillwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Bermondsey. Accept no substitute.
Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to a midsummer chat show. A slightly different one, actually. I've assembled an alternative team. I'm doing what Gary Rowett did the other night in those two friendlies played at Bromley and then at Dartford. I've got two teams going here. A completely new set of voices. One familiar voice in Neil Fissler. How are you, Neil?
Good evening, Fiona.
Thank you. Fiona Bruce, that he means. Take the mickey out of me.
Yeah, for those people that don't know, Nick put something on WhatsApp last night that he's going to chair this like Fiona Bruce, so we're all going to call him Fiona tonight.
And what I meant, I'm going to talk across anyone I don't disagree with and shut them down if they're saying things I don't like. Anyway, so good evening, Neil. Good evening to Graham Payne, our show regular, but first time in this kind of environment. Graham, how are you, mate?
Good, Nick. Thanks for inviting me on.
I think you're welcome. Good to see you. Another voice, I think we've spoken on the show previously, Matt Richards. How are you, Matt?
Yeah, really good, Nick. Yeah, and good to be here. Evening, everybody.
Good to see you, mate. And last but not least, I think, well, we've certainly spoken previously. It's John Rankin. How you doing, John?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks, Nick. Hello, everyone. And thank you for inviting me on.
You're welcome, boys. Good to see you all. I've done a series of talking points for the shows. It's quite difficult midsummer, chaps, really, because I find it's quite difficult to come up with an awful lot to talk about. I personally can't bear friendly matches, and I deliberately try and avoid them if I can do. But we've had a series of friendlies recently, most recently at Dartford the other night. So I thought it might be a good starting point to talk about the Dartford game. We also played Bromley behind closed doors, so we haven't got an awful lot we can come up with on that. John, I mean, you were at Dartford. I don't know if any of the other chaps were at Dartford the other night, but you were there, mate. How did it feel to be back at the football, and how did we look to you, mate?
Well, yeah, like you, I mean, I'm not really into friendlies as such. But I took my son, who's 15. We had a bit of a nightmare trip getting there, and the place was pretty full. I think the attendance was just under 4,000.
Yeah, they said that, yeah. Yeah.
And, it was kind of a bit strange, really, because you walk in and you don't know where to go. We had a bit of a problem getting in. There was some jobs worth on the gate. No disrespect to Dartford, sorry, but he had this app on his phone and he was trying to scan this stuff. And we said, look, come on, mate, don't worry about that. So he bowled in. It was kind of sussing out, where everyone was. It was mostly Millwall there, I've got to say, because I suppose that's where our demographic is now, in that neck of the woods. It was packed out. It was hard to park. It was like Millwall Circus had descended on Darrenth, It really was. Anyway, no, it was okay. I tell you what, I mean, they looked pretty good to me, Dartford, as an outfit. They were up for it. I mean, they all looked pretty fit and sharp, and they were passing the ball about, and they packed the midfield and the defence out, as you would imagine, made it hard. But, we looked all right. I think, obviously, in the back of the mind of players is not to get injured. So any sort of really 50-50 balls, people weren't really slamming in, which is to be expected. But the Dartford boys were. I don't think they gave a flying hoot about it, really. They looked very committed. And it was great. Afobe played well, really ran it up front. I've always been pro Benik Afobe myself.
Yeah.
And, he really did show what he's about. The angles he was running, the way he was closing down the defenders, very, very good. You could see his quality coming through there. Yeah, it was an enjoyable night, very hot. There was a bit of a tear up between a load of 13 and 14-year-olds, which actually stopped the game.
It stopped the game, did it? Okay.
Yeah, well, they were just sort of bullocking around the stadium. There's this sort of stadium where you can walk. We had general admission tickets, so we walked in and we were just sort of looking around, and we found somewhere to settle on because we were a little bit late. And these kids with their mobile phones and their vapes, were bullocking around and running about, and it just got a bit sort of, a bit
feral youth of Dartford. I mean, Matt, you were there. Did you see any of this feral behaviour?
Yeah, I did. I was just in the corner, just by it, really, or not far away from it. And as John's saying, it was weird. All of a sudden, it was in the second half, wasn't it, John?
Yeah.
That Dartford fans walked around to the Millwall end, as it were. But again, you can't really work out when you walk in the ground. Yeah. And then suddenly started rushing. Yeah, I know. And it was all a bit excitable for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then it just kind of calmed down. There was like 2 part-time old Bill there. They kind of, I think they put their sandwich down and they thought, well, we better go and do something now. And they walked in, they didn't really know what to do, and just stood on the pitch and like shrugged their shoulders, like, I don't know. And I mean, I don't know if you saw it, John, but there was a woman photographer there. She must have had a field day. She couldn't believe her luck. She was like snapping away there, thinking that, I'm going to be on the front page of the Dartford News or something like that. And but yeah, it was all kind of it died down pretty quick, didn't it?
Yeah. It was just high spirits. And I mean, Barts and I think Jake Cooper got some of the little kids out from where they were rushing about and brought them onto the pitch.
Right.
And it wasn't, the atmosphere was interesting. I don't know about you, Matt, but I mean, I saw Tyler Bury scored a cracking goal. I didn't go berserk because I do it, at the Den. It was kind of, it was a weird run out. It was a run out, wasn't it?
It was a weird thing. I mean, I took my daughter, and I've only taken her once before to Middlesbrough last year. So she'd never seen Millwall score. So she was, and we got there 20 minutes late because of all the. Yeah, I know, me too. I've followed them for 40 years. But we got there late, so we missed the Phobie's goal. And then she's going to me, it's quite late, and she's what time is it, Dad? What time is it? And then of course Tyler scored a screamer, and she saw that, and she absolutely loved it. So but it was a weird atmosphere, wasn't it? I mean, friendlies are weird anyway, but I mean, it was a weird kind of atmosphere.
Things. I mean, we were talking about this earlier on, Neil, weren't we? Friendlies as a general concept. I mean, you've kind of got to have them, but I made it my personal rule not to go to them unless I really, really have to.
Pre-season friendlies are a means to an end. All as they are, with your fitness up, we can do all the fitness training you like down at Claremont Road. But this is how you get your match fitness up. And, to be honest, I went through a stage where I didn't miss a pre-season friendly, went to Ireland and
the tours,
and something on them. But to go, I've been to places like Hampton and Richmond and crap holes like that, farm, and they don't hold any appeal anymore. You just, but the game against a Swedish club on Wednesday night, that would be quite good because it's something a little bit different. But they are just a means to an end, aren't they? But they're to get the players' fitness up and to maybe fill up the coffers of a non-league club who get a little bit of extra income. Well, other than that, they're not really worth jack.
No, I mean, Graham, there's always this online hoo-ha about when will Millwall tour abroad. I mean, it always makes me laugh. I mean, I personally couldn't get out my pit to go to Dartford, let alone go to Portugal or I don't know where else they want to go, Germany or Ireland, But, we do seem to have a routine with these. I mean, the game at Dartford, a couple of behind closed doors I see at Copers Cope Road and Camel Road. We've barely left. We've not even gone out the M25, have we?
No. And then we've got Colchester, haven't we, tomorrow night? And then
Colchester's
the Swedish game. Yes, the Swedish game, and then Ipswich to finish. And I don't think they'll ever go. I mean, they're talking about this Swedish team are sponsored by Husky and all. And they're saying, will there be a return game out in Sweden next year? I can't see that happening.
But I think behind the closed doors games were because Fleming didn't have a work permit.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that did work.
Probably, wasn't
he? You can't play him in front of a paying audience, if you like. So certainly the Bromley game was almost certainly arranged to give him another game because they couldn't play him that night. And I know that he's now got his work permit, but what with the Home Office working from home, I don't think there was any guarantees that they were going to get it as quickly as they have got it. So they were going to look to maybe have one or two games. And the game last Saturday against the Nigels, there's no way they were going to let a crowd into that, were they?
No.
Let's face it, the old Bill would be having a fit, wouldn't they?
You could get on the sauce
Funny,
in
I saw-
Beckenham, couldn't you? You get on the sauce in Beckenham, bowl over the Copers Cope Road, 3 parts missed.
I could walk there.
Beckenham wouldn't know what hit it.
But to be fair, though, I've done 2 or 3 tours in Ireland.
Yeah.
And the only trouble I ever saw was when St. Pat's turned up to have it with Shelbourne one evening. And it went off at the home end, and Millwall fans were just sitting there pissing themselves laughing as to what was going on. You had these huge police presence outside the ground because the big bad Millwall were in.
The feared name of Millwall was there, yeah.
We looked at them and they looked at us, and it was almost, what in the hell are you lot doing here? Yeah, there's never a hint of trouble at some of these games, at most of these games. I think if you were to go to Eastern Europe in some places, then they would. Millwall
take it to Ferencváros to get them. Yeah, that would be that would probably be more difficult. Mentioned Bromley. That was a behind closed doors at Calmont Road. Bromley 0, Millwall 5. Goals for Evans. Some quite a spectacular goal for George Evans. Actually, he seemed to almost he seemed to clip it on the run from the edge of the penalty. It floated into the net. It was. I mean, the angle that I saw the footage of it was quite hard to get the full flight of it. But it looked quite a beautiful take from what we've seen of it. 2 for Evans, and 1 for Bennett, 1 for Malone, and an own goal to make it a final. Some of the results have been not bad. I mean,
what can you read into? I mean, this is the trouble, Nick. I do find myself thinking, like you said, 5-0, 2-0. That's good. We haven't let any, but it's a pre-season friendly, isn't it? And it's against non-league clubs. But you kind of find yourself getting caught up in the hype of it, and I thought it was a good performance against Palace as well. You know,
4 goals there, mate. I mean,
4 goals.
Good goal from Fleming and all in that game.
Yes,
spectacular one, wasn't it? Shot from the edge of the penalty area, and he, I mean, I do wonder whether we're all having too much wishful thinking. I put my hand up, listeners. Put my hand up. I want to be optimistic, and I want these pre-season results to lead me to a series of high tempo attacking displays when the league kicks off on the 30th. But I mean, I don't know about you, John, but I've always found the better you play in pre-season, the worse we begin in the real thing.
Well, I mean, yeah, I watched the Crystal Palace game with my son on the. It's not
the stream,
it's on Millwall TV.
Yeah.
So I was sort of, I was living and breathing every moment with this Zian Fleming. To me, it's a gamble. I mean, I've only got what you guys have got, YouTube, to sort of have a look at what he looks good. He looks, he looks the package. But I thought, well, this league that he plays in out in Holland. He's in his second tier out there, wasn't he, I believe? And is that, I'm not sure whether that's championship level, to be honest with you. I'm not an expert on foreign football. Maybe one of you guys.
I don't think he was, John, in the second tier. I think he was playing in their Premier League.
Yeah,
or their top division.
Wasn't he?
Fair enough. Okay, I've got that wrong then. Well, that's so when he came on, I thought, he looked a bit off the pace to me, and then all of a sudden he scored that goal, and I was like, thank God for that. Happy days. He is, he can do it. So that was good. But I think for me, the one that's I'm really buzzing about is George Honeyman. I think that's such a shrewd boy. I really am impressed by that. I like Honeyman. I think he's going to be really good for us. And it was out of the blue, George Honeyman. I'm really positive about George Honeyman. So.
I think all the signings have been quite good, actually.
Yeah.
You have a look at that game against the Nigels last week. Creswell came on.
Oh, what a player.
And to see a player, we did a Cruyff turn or something on the edge of our own box. And there's me. I'm almost having a bloody stroke at the thought. He sweeps this lovely ball out. And you think, okay then. Yeah, but he can do that, so we won't worry next time he does it. And he just looked a player. I think he hit the bar. He scored with a header, didn't he?
Yeah.
And
the impressive bit with Creswell was when, Crystal Palace have got 3 or 4 great big hulking brutes, haven't they? Up front. Yeah. And one of them was trying to muscle Cresswell off the ball, and he just swatted him like a fly. They replayed it on Twitter. He strong-armed him off, and the bloke went tumbling, and he just walks away with the ball. And I thought, he's going to do well down the Den, you know.
I mean, that's music to my ears, John. Because as I say, I want to be optimistic. This is. Oh, how are we collectively? Are we optimistic? Are we permitting ourselves? I'm looking around the screen, listeners. You won't see this, and I'm seeing quite a few years of Millwall hard-bitten experience looking back at me. This is not a show for the kids. And I fall foul of this every season, and I'm a sucker for wanting it to be optimistic. I mean, Graham, are you optimistic going into the season, mate? How do you feel?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I think I messaged you once the signing started coming in.
Yeah,
you know, and I'm thinking, this is, you know, and then as John mentioned, Honeyman looks a good signing for us. Yeah. You know, he'll fit in well. Fleming, obviously, I think Rowett's been after him for a long while. You know, he tried to get him in January, and now it's come to fruition. I was pleased Bennett Afobe come back, because that looked like he was going to Bruges, and suddenly he's back at Millwall. Yeah. So the kid from Leeds, yes, and I think there's going to be another one from Leeds as they're coming in.
Shackleton, yeah.
The only thing that worries me a little bit is this Danny Mack saga. I think they've got to get him tied down to a contract, you know. I know it's all these silly bits from QPR, but it still won't go away, will it?
No,
you know, there was more on it last night,
isn't it? But, I agree. He's one of our talents. I mean, Matt. I mean, it's been a strange little thing with the Danny Mack, because it kind of came out of a clear blue sky, and then we've got some ludicrously low bids from Queens Park Rangers and Millwall level bids traditionally, aren't they? I mean. Silly hundreds of thousands for a player that should be having zero on the end of any of those numbers, but that's about the only thing that's been slightly unsettling. Are you permitting yourself to drink from the optimism cup, Matt, for the start of the season?
Well, I'm similar to you, Nick, that I'm definitely feeling positive, more positive than I can remember for a while, and I think it's on the back of, you know, 3 solid good seasons. Let's face it. You know, we've done well, and then
progression,
and then we're building on top of that. You know, because we look back 2 or 3 years, we got Bradshaw in, we've got Leonard in, and then you get Matt Smith in. You know, so we've had decent buys the last few years, but now we've got 3 years behind us, and now we're building on top of that, and the quality just is just a bit better. When I say, like, you know, 3 years ago we were getting Bradshaw, now we're getting the likes of Honeyman. You know, proven championship player. I get what you're saying there, John, about Fleming. You know, it's kind of like, I want to be really excited. It's a brilliant goal, but it's a different league, isn't it? And so you just don't know how he's going to adapt to a different league. But yeah, I'm feeling positive, and but there's that nagging doubt in the back of my mind that we're going to lose the first 3 games, you know. And it's like, but that's just
be Rowett out. Harry will be renting Rowett out.
or we're not 2-0 up in the first half hour, and we'll be booing them off at half time, won't we? It's 0-0 at half time against Stoke. It'll be a boo, won't there?
I'm going to start a bingo on listeners. I'm going to start a bingo. The first call from Harry for Rowett to get out. How long it'll take? He'll take it in good heart. I know.
Bless him. No, I love Harry. But and I think the Danny Mack one is a weird one, because you're right. I thought it came out like a bit of a joke, almost like a joke. Yeah. And it's still kind of kicking around. But you can't think. I mean, with the money which we seem to be having at the moment, money's not going to be the issue. So he's not going to go, because, I mean, we must have more money in QPR at the moment, and we're not going to let him go, are we? I mean, maybe let him go in maybe 2 years' time or something like that. 2 or 3 years' time, we've had a decent run out of him. You know, let him go for a few million, but there's no way we're going to let him go.
I mean, the money's. I mean, Neil. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we always praise John Berylson, and I will never do anything else but he seems to be investing in a way that we haven't seen for some time, really. I'm trying. Maybe when Holloway was spending liberally. I mean, that's about the last time I can think of where we've really gone to town, and we do seem to be investing quite deeply at the moment. John must have backed a winner at the Dogs or something out there in America, mustn't he?
Yeah, to be honest, I think this Danny Mack situation is a storm in a teacup. I think the bids have probably been encouraged by the agent to give Millwall a kick in the nuts.
To G it up a little bit.
Yeah, and to actually hurry up and to pay him. I think we discussed it on the show that we did last Friday, didn't we, Nick?
Yeah.
I cannot see him going. at all. Not at the moment.
I wouldn't. It was funny because I just was saying before we started recording that I spoke to a Glasgow Rangers pod just before we started doing this, listeners, and they were asking about Zach Lovelace. And I made the point, and I stand by it to some extent. I know it's tough on us to see him go, but I'd have to ask myself, would I go if I was a 16-year-old player of some talent? Where would I have gone? I probably would have done. I think most listeners probably would have done, because you're only 16 and you're weighing up, a chance of the big time. What if I was Danny Mack? Would I go? No, certainly not to QPR. I can't see what would be in it for me. I mean, John, would you go to QPR, mate?
Well, I agree with what Neil just said there, because this, to me, the elephant in the room here in football is the agents. That's the big difference in the modern game. I mean, back in the 70s and 80s, I mean, you and I, Nick, spoke about our experiences in the early to mid 70s. There weren't agents. It was managers used to ring managers. And I was listening to a show with Mick McCarthy when he brought the two Russians in. He rang Bobby Robson and said, "Are they any good?" And he went, "Oh yeah, they're brilliant." And it was all a bit amateurish.
Thanks a lot, Bob.
Mind you finish, they were brilliant when they were sober, John.
Well, that's not good. But at the time, you got to remember, he's talking to the guy that said to us after Ipswich beat us 6-1, we should be flamethrowers. So I thought, why is that?
Animals, wasn't it? It's called as animals.
So, but anyway, so I agree wholeheartedly with Neil. To me, the Danny Mack thing smacks of, I think him and Billy Mitchell were on a lower wage structure because they come through the
ranks.
Through the ranks, so they're not on the 10k a week and 5 and 12 and a half. And I think that's a story being spun out by his agent just to get a debate going, because it's a nonsense. It's a non-story. QPR, I mean, look what we did to them when they came down the Den last season. I mean, he's not going to go there, is he? It's pointless.
So, I wouldn't have thought so.
Situations, with Lovelace and with Danny McNamara. Lovelace, Millwall were never going to keep him, never for Sundays, because the agent and the parents, were tapped up. Yeah, that's how it worked. Yeah, because how else would Glasgow Rangers know about Zach Lovelace playing for Millwall's under-18s or whatever he played for? He only played, 4 or 5 games for the under-23s and got in the first team. Yeah, but they're tipped off about these players, and no matter what Millwall did, they were never going to keep him, because it's a strange move. You're 16. Why not just stay put at? Why not just stay put where you are?
That's our in my case 60-something-year-old head on. You can't put that on young shoulders, can you? I mean, yes, you're right. I mean, I think he would have, development-wise, he would have had a far better shot at being progressing, learning the game, learning the trade, and all the rest of it. But when you're 16, you can't see.
But either the decision, though, Nick, it's the parents and the agent that make the decision. What flight do I get up to Glasgow? But he's got nothing to do with it, Footballers are like robots. They do as they're told. You very, very rarely come across a footballer, especially at that age, that knows what they want, They're told what to do, so they go away and do it,
There's quite a few of our ex-players who... But I mean, quite a few of our have disappeared without trace, haven't they? I mean, you see these names that go to the boy that went to, was it Darko that went to Manchester City? I mean, I know he's only young, so
he's going to Huddersfield for 15 million or something, isn't he?
Is he? Is that? I haven't followed it since. So is that where he's gone?
Yeah, but was there something on Hoff the other day about somebody was after him and you were going to get umpteen millions for him? But that's what clubs like Man City do: is they harvest. Young players from all over the country, and then they keep them for 2 or 3 years, decide they're not good enough, but they've developed them, so then they kick them out and they make a profit on them, don't they?
You're listening to AchtungMillwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Bermondsey. Accept no substitute.
I was interested from the Dartford game, just to go back to Prince's Park the other night. I'm reading some rave reviews here about Bessart Topologe. Gary Rowett on the, I think this is on the official site, going by the wording here, is impressed with Topologe in the performance at Dartford. A Kosovan under-19 international. We played 81 minutes before being replaced by Boateng. I mean, Matt. I mean, did you like him? Rowett was raving about him on the official site.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen his name before. I think he's been on the bench before, hasn't he? And he played against Palace as well, didn't he? I think in that friendly, he was definitely there. I only caught the second half of that one, and he quite impressed me there actually. Yeah. But yeah, definitely, John. I don't know what you thought, but he was really good.
He's
good engine.
He plays on the left, does he? You got Danny Mack on the right, and Bezart, they call him, don't they?
Bezart, I think, yeah.
So they call Bezzy, don't they? They refer to him on the left. Well, he's got to be good competition for Scott Malone because, Scott Malone, a bit flaky defending, isn't he? I mean, funny enough, about 2 weeks ago, I bumped into Scott Malone at Chessington, World of Adventures. There you go. He was
this is the show to come for name dropping, John. Did you?
I believe it, wasn't it? Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Scott Malone, like that, and he went, "Oh,
eat your heart out, fellow Millwall podcasts. We get to meet the stars,
we're here, mate. We got people
at Chessington."
Chessington World of Adventures, yeah. And there he was pushing a pram, Scott Malone, and I had a nice chat with him and bloke, great. And we had a bit of a laugh. And I said to him, "Love that goal you scored against Hull City. We all knew you meant it and all that." And so we had a good time. But watching Scott, I think this Bessart, Topologe, he's got everything. Defensively, that I think Scott can sometimes struggle a bit, can't he? He gets turned inside out a bit, Scott Malone, and he looks really assured to me. I mean, he puts his foot in and he tackles without committing a foul, and he was very assured on the ball. He looked nice and comfortable, plenty of time, not phased out. The one to watch, I think.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, Graham. I mean, I don't know if you saw this. It was it might have been on the official side, talking about loaning out again. Yet again, Alofe. I mean, and Alex Mitchell again. He's on, and Topologe was mentioned as possibles to be loaned out, and then there's all this kind of stuff about how many game time minutes they're going to get, playing for us versus maybe, I don't know, wherever they go, Sutton or wherever. I mean, it's a mixed thing being loaned out, isn't it? Because to some level, I mean, I think if Isaac Alofe goes out again, you've got to be thinking, if not now, when? When will you become a part of the Millwall first team squad on a regular basis? Because that'll be, is it 2 seasons he would have spent somewhere else?
Yeah.
Sutton.
2 seasons at Sutton. And now if he goes out on loan again, it's going to be the case. Well, he's never going to make it at Millwall, is he? Because he's 23, 24 when he comes back, if he goes out on loan again. But I do think that's one area and all that you've got Bradshaw and Afobe. Both of them are injury prone, aren't they? They've been known to have injuries, and I would have liked to have seen maybe another striker come in. I don't know if there's one coming, but I think that's an area, especially if Alofe goes out on loan as well, that we are quite light.
What feared me with Alofe in that Crystal Palace game was he had quite a lot of speed, and that was quite evident. But he got bumped off the ball a little bit too easily. Yeah, I think there was a couple of times where Palace defenders went into him, and he's kind of gone over a bit like Marquis, but he's got a lot more pace than Marquis.
Yeah.
When you just wanted the guy to basically just to stand up to it and just let the Nigel rebound off you. But that was the one thing that was the downside, I thought, to him, was he just seemed a little bit. He got shoved off the ball a little bit much too easily. But
lightweight.
But I do agree that if they loan him out now, we might as well sell him, because you can't have a player coming in to make your first team debut at 23,
23. No, I mean it's late in his career. I mean, just from his own point of view, you must want there to be some stability. I mean, if you are League Two level and it sounds like he's got some ingredients but not the full package, then you find your level and you make a career out of it. I mean, Tyler Bury scored a good goal the other night, didn't he, at Dartford? And he's also spoken of as a player that's more part of the Millwall scene now rather than one of the kind of lone groups. I like Tyler. I think he's got a lot of potential. Big season for him, though, ahead.
Yeah, I agree. It really is. Because, I mean, Jed going, I think is going to be an excellent there. Obviously, we've got Fleming in. Yeah. But I think we're going to be expecting to be fighting for a place there. I mean, he played in a more central role against Dartford, so perhaps Rowett's trying him out of there, and he seemed to quite like it. He had the confidence there, and I mean it's against Dartford, so again you've got that caveat there. But I like him, and give him a chance. It's a big season. I'd like to see him. He was a bit hot and cold last year, wasn't he? He had a few good games, and then he was kind of drifting out. But I think if he was perhaps more central, then he's going to get a bit more of the ball. And he can finish. I mean, the goals he scored last year, and it's a brilliant goal. So I think it's a big season for him, and it's interesting, like you're saying about the, do we stick with these players or do we send them out again? To be fair to Rowett, I think he's made some good decisions. Obviously Danny Mack coming back, Billy Mitchell's, it'd be interesting to see what happens with Billy Mitch this year. Actually, I think it's a big season for him. What with Honeyman coming in, there's a lot of competition in midfield now. And Saville was getting better towards the end of last season, wasn't he? So it's going to be a big season for him. But, he's put Billy Mitch in and he's done really well. He has played youngsters. I think he's been pretty good, gauge of when to put them in and when not to, really. So maybe he's, trying to get that greater quality in the players that have played in the Championship. He's going for he's not just going for 6. I think he's going for 5th or 4th place. That's what we should be aiming for. Maybe not.
Do we have the depth for that, mate? I mean, do you think we've got the depth, or we were still building it, maybe? But
I think I don't know. Well, I think with the buys we've got, Cresswell, if we get Shackleton in, got Fleming. Okay, he's a bit untried. Phoebe, Honeyman, and we've still got 6 more weeks, haven't we? The transfer window. If we can get that runs on into
deep into August, doesn't it?
I mean, you listen to me now. I'm getting excited now. I'm talking about 4th place. It's crazy. I'll bite your hand off now if you gave me 6. On goal difference. So shut me up.
These shows are always brilliant, now, aren't they? Because I don't know if you ever listened to a start of the season show when you become haggard some months into the season when it's all started to go badly wrong, and you listen to these. Wonderfully, I mean, I remember predicting that Troy Parrott was going to be like the I can't what comparison. Kane. I can't. Yeah, the new Harry Kane. Yeah. But anyway, let's make these wilder.
He's a dead parrot. Yeah, instead. Yeah.
We weren't that far off last season. I think if we'd have showed a little bit more aptitude at times and not dropped some silly points, we probably could have finished 4th or 5th, no problem at all. What did we finish? 3, 4?
Did we come in 8th or 9th? Was it? I think in the end. Yeah. But you're right, we weren't far off the pace, and we seem to. I mean, Gary Rowett's management with Millwall, John, has been marked by periods of. It's either famine or feast of us, isn't it? We're either going on losing streaks and the dearth of football. And then suddenly we hit a winning streak, and it's either one or the other. I think if we can get some consistency going, there's no reason why we can't think in terms of top 10 certainly.
Well, I'm reminded of an old saying. If you eat like a mouse and shit like a bear, you're going to lose weight, right? So we kind of, that. We went up to Blackpool.
I'm writing one down.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for me, it's all about the style of football he's playing. So he plays this. I'm going to open up an old wound here, but the formation, the 5-2-3, and I think with the midfielders he's brought in, it's going to be really interesting to see how that formation works, because he's got the 3 central defenders, the 2 wing backs, then those 2 CDMs as they're called now. It's all new to me. I remember football when it was 2-3-5, when it was the other way round. 2 full-backs, your centre halves, and 5 up front virtually. and then Johan Cruyff come along and said, "No, don't play like that. You go 3-4-3," and the modern game started. So I don't know. Yeah, last season we played well, and then we just got into this. Teams were just walking through the middle of us, and that system funneled them into the middle, and then our too much pressure on our 2 midfielders. We're playing with 2 men in midfield, and they were coming through the middle, and we had games. I think Peterborough played round us, and Swansea.
Swansea did.
At Luton at home. With that the kid who's the Jack Grealish looking like. Where's his hair like Jack Grealish? What's his name? Yeah. And I thought, oh, this is Millwall that I'm used to in the 1970s when I was a little boy,
You don't want to go back to that.
Third division stuff. But yeah, for me, it depends on how he deploys these players. And just one thing, I think you've got to really give Tyler Bury a chance. I have a bit of faith in him. I'm a big fan of Tyler Bury. I think he's got that little bit of magic about him,
Graham, one thing I think the failures of last season, and John just reminded me of the Peterborough game, which I went to, which was a bit of a scarring experience, but it seemed to be a failure of what I would call leadership, on-field leadership particularly. I'm hoping that the signing of George Honeyman, or for everything I read about this boy, and even to some extent watching Creswell, these don't seem like players that tolerate less than 100%, and I think that's going to be the key to our season, because we can't afford these scrappy periods again where we go 3 or 4, 5 games without a win, or a series of 4 straight defeats, which has been the pattern so far, isn't it?
I think the big thing this season is we've got to improve on the away form, because home form last year was probably the best in the league. So if they can just pick the away form up, and that's where you're going to need these leaders in some of these like your Blackpool's away and Hull away and places like that, where you need players to stand up, the tough games. And I think if we can sort out the away form, and the home form obviously continues, then we should, it should. That's the main issue last season, was the away form. It was very poor, wasn't it?
Yeah, great point.
AchtungMillwall.
I wonder, in a perverse sort of way, if the loss of Judas Jed were.
Oh, come on, Neil. Come on, you can't say that.
Judas Wallace.
If the loss of Judas Jed will actually be a good thing for us. It seemed to me that everything had to go through Jed Wallace.
Yes.
So if Jed Wallace went missing, which he did, but let's not claim he's but he's anything like
the new Messiah. He's not the new Messiah, no.
He is the Messiah. If he went missing or didn't play well, invariably we didn't play well. So now we have to learn to play well without him.
Totally agree, Neil.
And I'm just wondering if it will be a bit of a blessing in disguise for us. I've just been thinking it as we sat here talking, that that last year we had some awful games. All of those games you're on about, that Peterborough game was probably.
There were other games, but that was particularly
Blackpool.
But these teams were nothing teams. These are the kind of teams that, if you've got aspirations of the top 6, you have to turn up and turn them over.
No, you're right.
It was quite safe to say that Jed didn't play well in any of them, so we didn't play well. And I'm just wondering that if actually losing him, will actually be a good thing for Millwall.
It's an interesting point, Neil. I mean, Matt. I don't know about you, but I remember. We were Jed's team, weren't we? I mean, so like Ziggy Stardust now, where he became the band, and he was the man. And if he was our sole creative, the only player given license to run in this. I'm just reading about Tyler given a more central role. He was, Jed's going to play centrally. Jed's going to do this and do that. I think Neil's got onto something there. I think the sharing of the creative burden won't go amiss a little bit. I mean, we do have players now that can hopefully create. That's going to be their role. And you know, I think if any team that builds too much around one personality, I mean, I suppose if you go to the very top level, even there with Manchester United and Cristiano, I mean, you cannot become all about one player, can you? You know, it's got to be. It is a team game ultimately.
I agree, and you know, I don't really want to use them as an example, but you think about Palace with was it Zaha, wasn't it, 2 or 3 seasons ago? It was,
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Zaha, they'll be going down.
Yeah.
So what they've done, they've kind of built a team, and like Zaha's not really needed now so much. I mean, hopefully, you know, they fall to pieces and they go down. But you know, it's never a good thing to build a team around a player. And I think you're right. We relied on him for his skill, for his assists, for his goals, but also for his leadership, because he was the leader on the pitch.
He was.
He would get the team going. It was a bit like, you know, Tomo used to do as well. You know, you need players like that, and so you're absolutely right. You know, Honeyman could be one of those players. Cresswell. We need a team of them, really. You think about all the successful teams throughout history, any football team, there's a team of leaders. You know, you're not relying on 1 or 2 people, are you? So I think you're right, Neil. I think, and I hope you're right, you know, that we won't miss him. I don't think we will, you know, because I think we've got some good players coming in, and you know, I'm positive. Well, I can't believe I'm being so positive on it. I thought I was quite negative on here when I came on.
I'm just looking at my match notes here. Jamie Shackleton. I love any Arctic explorer names, Millwall. If you listen, I'd love a signing with an Arctic exploration linkage. So the Shackleton's coming in, possibly working on a loan deal. He's a midfielder, right-sided midfielder, possibly competition for, I guess, on the right side. That would be Danny Mack, wouldn't it? Hopefully an announcement will follow before Friday's friendly at Colchester. We'll see. I just want to move us along a little bit, boys. I mean, it is difficult this time of year because you don't have an awful lot to lay your hands on. I was surprised that we've got our match categories. I don't know if any of you saw this on the official website. I mean, for a fairly nondescript league, we've got quite a few Category A games. It's just struck me that there aren't any flashpoint games this season to me, and yet they've defined Stoke as Category A. Okay. Yeah. Cardiff.
First game, isn't it?
Okay. QPR. Maybe. Watford Category A.
Definitely London derbies, aren't they? So.
Yeah, maybe I'm too 1970s, Neil, but I just don't see these as Category A games. That to me is Millwall versus Everton, or you know, West Ham, or you know, someone like that.
It's weird, and it's got to be. They're all the same category to me. It's all category. You know,
category bland. I mean, I don't know.
Category bland.
I mean, you know, I don't know. It's just interesting. Norwich is a Category A. I suppose they just base it on, I think, the needs of the Metropolitan Police for overtime. I think that's what
police.
Defining after that. But yes, on the official website, if anyone wants to look. Optimism we've covered. Fans Forum. I don't know if any of you have ever been to a Fans Forum. My advice to anyone thinking of going is don't. I've been to a few. you just get the world's the kind of the Millwall fans that will go to a Fans Forum. They turn out for it. You ever been to a Fans Forum, Neil?
Do I look like the kind of person to be honest? Yeah.
No, you don't, mate. No, you don't. No. What about you, John? Ever been to a Fans Forum?
Never even thought about it, and never been a member of the Millwall Supporters Club. It's too lemon drizzle cake and a cup of tea for me. You know, it's not Millwall. We don't have supporters clubs and forums. We have the Coldblow Lane end and the halfway line.
Is there cake?
Graham, you look like a lemon drizzle cake kind of bloke. I don't mind lemon drizzle personally. If I'm in Cosfay, you know.
No, I've never been.
No, I mean they're always staged in the exec lounge. It's always obviously in the summertime, so it's normally oppressively hot in there. And the manager comes in. Well, Gary Rowett will come in, and someone will ask him a question. And there's always someone that seems to think that they know how to organise corner kicks and tell him how to do his. It's kind of. It's kind of fascinating and kind of repulsive, all in one thing. It's odd, you know. There's a fascination of it all. Anyway, Fans Forum. So my advice is
Middlesex County Cricket Club. because I'd actually been there all day, and I went with a couple of people. We were well oiled, and we went in there, and they proceeded to say how 3 of the players had been tapped up, and it was quite an interesting experience. But to be honest, yeah, well, you're exactly right. Yeah, there's always somebody in there that will know more about coaching than the manager.
Or transfer deals. They know they've got the inside tread on something.
You asking them anything too difficult, do they, or too tricky? They just wheel out the party line, don't they? And it just seems like a bit of a waste of time to me, a bit of a waste of an evening when you can watch a test match or something like that. Or
I'd agree with that. I mean, if you are interested, listeners, don't let me discourage you from going. If you do, it's at the Den on Thursday the 28th, and I think Gary Rowett will do the lead-off bit, and then it's Steve Kavanagh and the Mill support.
Achtung, Millwall.
My last talking point for us, gentlemen. I mean, this struck me the other day, and I've put it on Twitter. You've probably all seen it in different guises, but I was really struck by Fulham. Charging £100 for certain categories of ticket for their home games Premier League. Is that the price of Premier League football? I wouldn't pay it, would you, chaps? I mean, I'll go around the table. I mean, I know it's an easy thing to say, and it's your club and all the rest of it, but £100 for an average Premier League game, I wouldn't pay it.
Up on one thing, yeah.
Their
season tickets are actually quite reasonable. I was listening to the Price of Football this morning, and they were talking about it. Yeah, their season tickets are £550, £600.
Okay,
so this is only really aimed at your casual fan. I think if you want to go to Fulham
on a regular basis, get yourself a season ticket.
You're committed on a regular basis. I think it comes out to about 50 or 60 quid or something like that. I think it's only, it's only really to get your day tourists, isn't it? So I think they'll relieve them of a few quid. But it is an obscene amount of money if you just want to turn up and watch a game of football and you can't afford that initial outlay.
Yeah, I mean, fair play. If that's their season ticket regime, then that's different, and that blunts my attack really. But £100 ticket for an average Premier League game in any I don't know, it just seems like a huge amount of money.
Just Millwall these days. I think I paid 30 odd quid on the day last season, which I almost had a stroke. I don't mind admitting. That was not thinking I was going to pay £25, and but she said something like that will be 32 quid. I said, I only want one seat, mate. I don't want.
I think about 30 quid, aren't they? I don't know. I mean,
They range from about 30 to 37. I think
37
on a match day.
37.
The upper Kitcheners.
But something I agree with the Premier League is they cap their away prices at 30 quid.
Do they?
And I know in our league you can pay up to 40, can't you? 45 quid. I think Graham might have something to say on this.
Yeah, I was just going to say Reading have come out of a scheme where they'll, with any reciprocal club, charge £20 for the away support, providing Reading fans get the same. Say if Millwall do it at the Den. And what the last I read, only 2 teams had gone in with it. Millwall wasn't one of them, but where you get a cheaper price for the away ticket.
It's interesting. It's a very, very general point. Obviously, I mean, I take the point, Neil, about the Fulham season tickets, and if that's the case, then they're encouraging regular support. So fair play to them on that. I mean, I think there is a wider point. I've been watching this Freddie Flintoff show where he tries to get a cricket club going in Preston, one of the real deadbeat parts of Preston, and that's saying something, isn't it? And it just really struck me about, I suppose, John and you and I have spoken about the 1970s when we started going to football. You could do it because it's a relatively cheap thing for kids to take off and go to football. And this is that world of deciding with your mates to go to a sports event, whether it be cricket or in the case of the show that he's doing at the moment, or our own collective experience. It's just such a world away because you can't, you've got a plan for it now, but the expense involved is disproportionately high. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, is that the? Waxing the rig of an old man now? I don't know.
No, cricket is the one that's really been knocked on, that's really been messed up, I think, because, first of all, this is not getting political, but it was taken off of our screens. You could watch a test match, 4-day coverage, and then it went to Sky, and that was it. So, but I lived in New Cross when I was a boy, hence supporting Millwall. But I remember jumping on a 53 bus going to the Oval and watching Ian Botham score his 1,000th test run against India and Bisham Bedi, and money, it was pennies, it was coppers, it was like, a quid or something like that to get into the Oval. And I think the consequence of that is that now, in order to be a good cricketer, not so much football, but certainly rugby union and cricket, you've got to come from a middle class background, because you're not going to get the opportunity to even watch your idols and your heroes. Probably a broad generalisation there, but I do agree with your point, Nick. So it's a very valid point, I think.
A test match apparently is about £140 a day.
Yes, 140. I had a look for England versus South Africa. It was about that level at Lord's.
My boy went to Middlesex and the mob from across the river. Well, I think he said it was about 40 quid.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
But disco cricket.
2020. Yeah.
And when I was a Middlesex member, I think it was about £170 for the season. Something absolutely ridiculously cheap. But now you're priced out to go to rugby union. To go and watch a Premiership rugby union match apparently is about 45, 50 quid in some grounds. And that's
you price out your market. It was also interesting. This is a cricket program, but I take my hat off to Flintoff for doing what he's doing. I don't know if you've seen it, Matt, but what really struck me is they didn't know who he was. They'd not got a clue who Freddie Flintoff was.
Wow.
They didn't know what cricket was. Genuinely, I don't think these kids can act. They all look like they're from the tough side of town, and they just did not know what he was talking about. He wants to give them do something with their time, like a youth club initiative, and fair play to him. They had not got a clue who he was, what the game of cricket was. They had never heard of it. So I do think that sports, you're not going to change this because the money is too deep in all. We've mentioned rugby, we've mentioned, I went to tennis, and money is the all and end all. You're not going to change it, but the price of that is that you alienate a certain section, and I do wonder where it leads us, because I probably wouldn't start going now if I was a kid unless somebody took me. I don't know that.
It's a really good. I think you're absolutely right, and it's almost the fact that we're on this podcast now. Obviously, like we all support Millwall, we love Millwall, but we love football, we love sport.
Yeah,
we've got a lot out of it for our lives. And stuff that stayed with us through personal life, work life, and stuff like that. So kids just haven't got the easy access to it like we did growing up in the 70s and 80s, and I think it's a real shame. It's just outright. The prices are obscene, and it's kind of it taps into that whole half and half scarf thing and stuff like that, where it's just I don't know. And you're right. Maybe it's just grumpy old men moaning about it. Because are we going to change it? But I think society should do more around it. And maybe this Flintoff thing. Obviously he's just making a TV program, isn't he? But if that starts somebody else to do it around the country, then that's got to be a good thing to just kind of get more kids involved in sport. Because you get so much from it, don't you?
No, I agree. I think as we're getting into grumpy old men zone, that's a good point. Actually, that's a good moment to probably leave. Do watch the show, listeners. I recommend it. It's well worth a watch. I think we've probably exhausted our ability to talk about Millwall's friendly situation at the moment. So I want to say thank you to my alternative rotating team tonight. That's Graham, Neil, Matt, and John. Thank you all, boys, for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you to you too, dear listeners, for tuning in. We will be back probably soon. As soon as I can muster up some enthusiasm for friendly matches, we'll be back. Until the next edition, so Arrivederci Millwall, and bye for now.
You have been listening to Achtung Millwall. Please do leave us a review at Apple Podcasts. Dankeschön. Up the lines.